welcome to the Sweet Release Healing Roundtable podcast, where we're just pulling it together by the skin of our teeth on a weekly basis for our pleasure. And if it's your pleasure too, congratulations, join the cool kids table. So tonight we have Spencer, Jenny, Charity, and the fantastic Morgan on the producer side, swapping back and forth and doing all kinds of shit. We are trying to pull it together. Also, we are currently streaming live on TikTok. This will be placed in as many different social medias as we can find afterwards. Welcome to the shit show. So, there were some things I thought we should look at for the more serious side, and then after dark we can come back to giggling. What Spencer can't even hold it together. It was 0.2 seconds. It wasn't even a full second, and he's already giggling. Stop fucking laughing. No, I'm just kidding. So, one thing we were asked, so I'll do like a little no. So, one thing we're going to look at is the old wounds of women. I know. Namely, the mother wound and learning to trust each other again. It's a hard one. I
saw a meme today that says, as we burn down the patriarchy, let's not use other women as kindling.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's.
And I was like, yes, thank you.
I thought of this one too because there's a video I saw. I don't know, probably the dead of winter now. It's summer here. Well, it's spring. And at that point, I was just kind of like, oh, everything is great and life is balancing and stuff. And I saw this one video where this younger woman, beautiful woman, kept stitching this older woman's video. And the older woman was having a very hard time in the video because she was really emotionally upset about putting on makeup and how she used to put on makeup and how young people are putting on makeup now. And it was like this big comparison thing. This older woman was clearly in pain and having a hard time with it. And this younger woman, instead of, and I don't want to compare too much, it's just not the way I would have handled it. She kept stitching the video and saying, like, she was doing it that woman's way and like making fun of her and really making these really big divider lines between one generation and another. And I thought, what a missed opportunity to stop and be like, hey, you can do your makeup however you want. And I'm going to use my massive platform not to tear you down, but to join forces with you and be like, hey, that's cool if you want to do it this way. Like, one of the things she was saying is she licked the top of a Q-tip and then would clean like fallout and stuff that way. And I'm like, what's wrong with that? I don't mind like licking my own face. Who gives a shit? It's my own saliva. I made this with my body. And God damn it, if I want to use it on my body, I will. But I remember thinking, and honestly, this video sat with me for so long, how divisive that is. And when dudes do that to each other and kind of tear each other apart, they can laugh it off and be like, fuck you, whatever. But women really can't. Like, those wounds of women run so deep. What do we think about this?
My first thought goes to like being a teacher and teaching younger kids. I've always worked with K-6 kids, and even then the girls they've learned it at a young age. I have more parents coming to me being like, hey, my daughter's saying that this other girl is saying these things, and it's like these girls haven't even started maturing yet, like body wise, and they're already going after each other's weight, their looks, their hair, and that kind of stuff. And like the parents are really upset. And like I spent more time dealing with that drama of like girls already at third grade, that's 8 and 9 years old, like trying to stop that. And it's like it's generational, even down to like young kids. So that's my first thought is like we got to stop it there.
Do you even see that with the boys?
The boys joke around. It's just like you said. They will punch each other. They'll push each other. They'll hurt each other, make each other bleed. but the next minute they're fine, like so they don't get in trouble, and then they're just back playing. But the girls, it's the instant backbiting, it's the crying, like instantly coming up to me saying, "Oh, she said this, this, and this." And the amount of times I have to be like, "No, like that is not where we're going. We are not talking about that to each other, and you guys need to learn how to support each other because the world after middle school is rough, and you guys
Mhm.
have each other, and like that has to be your support system. It's those girls alone."
I raised my daughter with what we called the woman card. It was you're not in competition with any other woman or girl. The only person you're in competition with is yourself, or if you're in a position where you have like an actual opponent, because she was in Taekwondo at that point. And it was always like I pride myself on being a woman's woman. I tend to listen to women first. If I'm talking to a couple, I address the woman first. I I will technically have a woman's side before I'll have a man's side. And I try to do that to level and balance because through most of my life I was taught the opposite. And I'm trying to do that to balance myself out so that I can just not care about whether it's a man or a woman, hopefully at some point or another, and just listen to the vibes coming off. But I tend to pride myself on being a woman's woman. I'm not going to steal your man. I'm not going to flirt with your man. I'm not in competition with you. I'm not playing this game. And I don't like that I've had to say that when I'm meeting a couple, when I'm making a new friend who has a significant other who is a man. I don't like having to do that.
It's really interesting. It feels multifaceted. So it goes down to the same words could be said between a group of boys and a group of girls, and the boys, whether this is healthy, correct, accurate, whatever, the boys laugh it off and then move on. The girls hang on to it and they go seek external mediation. That's one level. The second level is that it's okay for these comments to be said in the first place. And so it's a nuanced idea because there's so many different facets to it that if you pluck one, it's tied to hundreds of others. So it's hard to grasp what direction to speak on, because I can remember in second grade, my dad going, "Look, sweetie, I'm so sorry. You come from a long line of nerds. I don't know what to tell you. Just go on the other side of the playground, play by yourself. Eventually they'll come to you." I'm 39 years old and I've just found the group of people who come to me.
Mhm.
And it's really weird and triggering and disheartening. And it's made me this incredibly strong, badass, beautiful human being that will go out of my way to lift up, support, aid, gas up all of the different things, the people around me, especially women. For a while, it was at the sacrifice of my own well being. And I've learned that balance and those boundaries. But it's really interesting. There's never a moment when it is one way and we learn it as something else. It feels like it is just always that way.
Mhm. There's in spirituality, there's stories that go back to the time when women and men really did exist in quite good harmony. As in, women kind of owned the night and they had their night rituals, often by moonlight, firelight, and then men had their daytime rituals. But at some point, it got in a man's mind that they were stronger, that they were, that this is scary to them, that women are doing all these things at night where they couldn't see them and they didn't trust it. And that's where the scales tipped. And it said, I think it's prior to the time of Atlantis too, where men decided that they didn't want to allow this to happen anymore. And in terms of spirituality, we've been dealing with the fallout from that since. The divine feminine has been pushed aside for the toxic masculine to take over, essentially. And we see it all around us. High heels, fuck you, whoever made those, because I've twisted way too many ankles on those. I'm not coordinated enough for sneakers, never mind high heels. And then we have impossible beauty standards from magazines run by men. And then we can think about it like this. Victoria's Secret is owned by a man in Ohio who set beauty standards. It's so interesting to me to see how it used to be and how it's changing now. Because now we have more men like Spencer who, no, I mean, like, seriously, you're like a level guy. You're not that guy who's like, hey, watch me walk in here and I'm going to be like the alpha of everything. And I'm like, sit the fuck down because you got alpha nothing in here. Like, if anybody's an alpha, it's fucking me, bitches. Sit down.
And
But
then the fact that the alpha was immediately debunked as soon as the theory was proposed. Like, that's a whole nother soapbox. I will
that
peel
was
out of
so
that.
funny too. I laughed so hard because I used to have an ex-boyfriend who was all about he's an alpha wolf and all this stuff. And I was like,
You know.
I know, I was like,
I will just say though, like it has taken me most of my life to get here though. Like I have been stuck under those same brainwashed standards of women need to be this way and whatever. And it honestly took losing a girlfriend who she was like, you are not it. Like this is not how that goes. Like you have mentally hurt me. And I just sat there like that, like really stressed me out, being like told that I had messed someone up because of how my standards or my beauty standards or what I was looking for and things that I complimented her on and those kind of things was actually messing her up mentally. And at that point I was like, oh, this is what they're talking about. This is that toxic masculinity. And that was my first year of college. So I was like 18, 19 years old. And like even then I had like my own body issues that I was trying to go through. I've always been 6 feet tall and I was 160. I was skinny, I had no muscle, and like but I was always told I was good looking or whatever. So in my mind I was like, this is what we're going for. This is what we're going for. And it had to take another human being and a female at that said, hey, you messed me up for me to be like, oh, this is not okay. And so it took me a while to even get to this point. And that's growing up with three sisters and like being the boy between all of them and growing up and being told that by a girl that I very much liked. So it's not a
but look at your reaction to that. Because I've said to guys before, your actions, X, Y, and Z, have messed me up. And I have been told that that's a me problem.
That's not. It's not. That's something within them. But it goes back to what Spencer was saying, and all of you have said it at least once or twice on here, but because I've been listening. Because I hear my kids say it. I hear them say it when I get on to them, and I'm like, that's not okay. And they're like, wait, what? And it's boys and girls. Girls are worse most of the time with each other and really nasty. They are. It's some boys, but not as many. But until somebody like you or anybody else looks at them and said, that's not okay, and it actually dawns on them, it's a them problem, and it's an internal problem, and it's a learned problem, and it is progressive. And it needs to be stopped, like Spencer said. But it's every time you hear it, I say, hey, that's not okay. What did you just say? Why? There's no reason for it. Don't do this. Like, you just have to tell them it's not okay and keep going and hope it rings that time. Sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
So with that, Charity, I have a
Sure.
question. As we navigate the world, as young adults growing into whatever it is we grow into, I'll let you know when we figure that out. Whose responsibility is it to teach the lesson? So I have some friends that are like, if he doesn't show up at the door, specifically in dating, if he doesn't show up at the door understanding these basic tenets, it's not my job to teach him. My thoughts is, well, if no one's ever brought it to his attention, how is he supposed to show up at the door and know? So at what point is it whose responsibility is it to be the teacher or to express the wrongdoing or the what the fuckness
I think
of
it would be all of it on an individual basis. Like, if I say it to 5 people that do it to me, and Spencer says it to 5 people that do it to him, and you say it to 5 people that do it to you, and maybe I didn't say it to all 10 of them that did it at that time, but I did say it to 5. All of those people have been told it's not okay. And then so the numbers climb. And so the numbers climb. I don't think that it's necessarily my responsibility to change everybody in the world. But it is my responsibility to myself to see what I will put up with and what I will not. And to say it's not okay. I mean, with the kids, I'm like, I'm not going to put up with it here. They know that. But we have open discussions with them. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I keep on
Yeah.
overcutting you. I agree with Tate that it is that it's everyone's responsibility, but like if it is a date situation, like it's a man can only take so many slaps in the face before he starts learning. And like that's how you shut down an alpha male is like you just be like, nope, you're nothing. Nope, you're nothing. And after so many, he's like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm really nothing, right? But we're not going to degrade him that far down. We're going to like say, hey, this is what I was expecting, and you're not it. And after that many times, it's going to like start sticking to them, setting that expectations, holding them higher to that higher standard because they haven't had to. Like it's been a society of like, hey, you're lucky that I even asked you on a date kind of a society.
I've never been told
And,
no
like-
kind of thing. It's like you've never been told no, so they're not going to take it the first time or two you tell them.
Yeah. Like
Right.
I'm a fighter. I'm like, you said what to me? I don't think so. I'm not going to go search it out. But if that comes into my space, oh, I'm meeting this head on. I've just had a guy send me a whole video of himself that I did not ask for. And I was like, he was like, what do you think of this? And I was like, it looks like a dick pic video sent without consent or want, and smaller than what I expected. And then I blocked him because I'm not going to play that game. I'm not. You put that in my space and I'm taking the bait every single time. It's so toxic of me to do this. I know. I should learn to turn the other cheek and walk away. Sharon reminds me quite often, like, is this in line with Sweet Release Healing? And I'm like, no. She's like, is
We
it on
aren't
the Sweet
Sharon.
Release Healing page? I'm like, yes. She's like, is it on your personal page? I'm like, no. She's like, then leave it alone. Like, that's
It's in line with sweet
valid.
release shaming, though.
Sweet Release Shaming. This is how we release your toxic masculinities. We shame it out of you.
I have a friend who, when she receives those unsolicited, she's like, oh my gosh, since you don't care who you send this to, I'm just going to go over here and post it. Do you want me to tag you in it or not? And now, does she? I have no idea because I don't ever go look. That is her business, not mine. That is not my lane. But she's like, since you don't care, since you didn't ask for consent, then I'm going to take this and over here.
I legit take screenshots when it comes down to my personal stuff.
Yeah.
If you're sending me something like my personal Snapchat, this is my personal Snapchat. I'm just sharing my life and doing my thing. You want to send me something like that? You have a 50-50 chance of screenshots and then being shamed through your screenshots, and I will not protect your identity because don't be a bad person if you don't want bad things to happen to you. This is the law of attraction in action, buddy. I got Spirit's approval. Like, am I going to get in trouble if I do this? And they're like, nah, go ahead. Like, this is a lesson learned. You can present the lesson. I'm like, fan-fucking-tastic. Or I'm going to send you a picture of a bigger one and tell you that you don't measure up. It is what it is. One way or the other, someone's feelings are getting hurt because you hurt my eyeballs. I feel like fair. So Morgan says she knows she's not in this when she's in the producer role, but her favorite line is when men get super offended when I've turned them down, and I try to soften it by saying, hey, nothing to do with you, I'm a lesbian. And these toxic men come back with, oh, well, you just haven't met the right man. Because that's definitely how it works. That's absolutely how it works. Thank you.
I wish y'all could see Tate right now.
Jesus Christ. Jesus.
This is still the first hour, isn't it?
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
still the first hour. We're in the first 20 minutes of the first hour. You
Oh,
got to
yeah.
rein it in.
Oh, wait.
I'll set the bar of inappropriateness. Just don't go
Oh,
past
wait.
that. And we should be good. Sharon's not going to give us all the death glare if we're
Yeah.
There
I'm
it is.
awake. Thanks, Sharon.
we're all
No,
like shit.
not
No,
me.
just kidding.
Thanks, Sharon.
Nope.
Oh, wait.
So Morgan said, "Who is tea kettle whistling?" It's not me yet, but I know I'm rapidly on the way there.
Yeah.
There it is.
Angela, you absolute unicorn. She says she's never received one before. I need to know what timeline you're living in and hop over there.
Is TikTok your only app? Look at her, never with a period too. No,
Full
that's
stop.
you said that with your whole chest, and I'm jealous. I'm gonna put it right out there. Oh, there we go. Blanca said same. What the fuck? What world am I living in?
I've
Obviously,
never received one either.
do you
Well,
want
you know,
I have
No.
a bag of them that I save for toxic men.
Nope.
you have to share that with me. My therapist goes, I do not understand. I do not understand how you get so many of them. I don't know anybody that has received as many as you have collectively. What are you doing? And I was like, just existing. I just am
doing?
existing.
What do you mean, what am I doing? Why is it my fault that these men have decided what to do? Like, are you serious? I think your therapist needs some toxic masculinity training. Be like, why is it my problem? It's not my fault.
Oh, well, no. In my defense, there was a period of time when I was a eggplant tease. So I was egging some of it on.
I mean, can relate.
I don't know if I can say that word and get her banned from TikTok. I don't know. I don't know what the rules are. They're arbitrary.
I really like that you said eggplant teas. I'm here for that. We're just talking about food. It's cooking. It's Italian cooking. Goes with tomatoes, sausage.
Spencer.
Yeah, I think we all think it's funny that Sharon's internet just cut out right now because we would all be in so much trouble.
Morgan said to rein it in or she's muting all of us.
Oh, got mom number 2, the Morgan.
Aw.
Oh my God. Okay. So back to this, spiritually speaking, how do we heal this on a daily basis? I'm in line with what Spencer was saying with don't back down. That if it's brought to you and it's presented to your space, address it. If you're safe, of course. You don't want to have like some dude who's going to swing on you because that shit hurts. And then when I swing back, they cry and it's just sad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm a swinger. It's not the pineapple kind either.
I think acknowledging that it is a trigger or that it is definitely not an us thing. It's not a me thing, that it is a them thing, and being able to take that, the pause between action and reaction, and to be able to take that pause and create that space, that the knee-jerk reaction to be space instead of aggression, because it doesn't have anything to do with us. And calling people around us to the carpet on it, absolutely that is not how you speak to me. Absolutely that is not how we talk to each other. I mean, to me, that's something I'm going to start putting into practice.
I think a huge part of it is like working on your kids right now. Like if you have kids or you have the ability to work with kids, that can be like nieces and nephews and whatever. Like it's got to start young, because we ultimately this mindset of like the alpha male and that kind of stuff, it stemmed from the older generation, and the older generation is starting to die out, and we only have the generations below us to help teach and to help grow that. And like even then, like my generation, millennials, we're not going to even be able to get past it. It's going to be multiple generations down the line. And I think that's just been the story of humanity, though. Like each generation is just doing something better to try to leave humanity in a little bit of a better place, and they just keep going. So it's our children that are going to be able to fix this. I like, and only thing we can do is teach them.
Well, part of me wonders if that's why there's such a big push in spirit for everyone to tap into their gifts, to use their gifts. Why I feel like such a huge push to teach as many people as possible in as many ways as possible to use their own gifts to get that connection to spirit so that we can speed up that process. As a couple of years ago, there was this big campaign about normalizing the genders and the sexes and everything, and just saying that equality across the board, that was going to take about 208 years. And there was a big push that said, I think we can do better than that. And I'm wondering if those spoken words of, I'm getting the chills saying this, and I get like the head sparklies, is I wonder if the spoken words of we can do better than that, and that want, spirit leaned forward and said, we got you on that one.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's why you see so many now. Like, so many people are tired of it. If you think about it, how many years we've been doing this on this turn throughout history. If you look at history, if you study history, if you know it, and how many moments in time, ever so many, like, I don't know, 200, 300, 400, 500 years, even throughout the timeline, it's a bump up each time. I just think it's a really hard push this time. I mean, it knocked me on the floor for it, and because I teach, and it just waylaid me for a minute. You know, like I've got what I was saying was kind of in line with it, but now what I'm saying, or what I will be saying, is going to be in line with it. So yeah, I think it's a push like that, especially if it was spoken out. I think so.
Do you think the fact that we, as the adults in the village, because we are tapping into our spirituality in a more global level, that it's become more mainstream, that it's allowing the children the opportunity to be more connected and to have a better understanding? Like, can they receive the message easier?
I think so. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, just from observation and paying attention. Yes, I think so. The better you understand it, and the more it's out now, the easier it is for them to pick it up and understand what you're talking about. I'm trying really hard to explain this, but without. I think it's much easier. I'll put it that way. How's that?
Okay. Fair enough.
I agree with Charity, because like my 6-year-old versus my 16-year-old sons, my 16-year-old son was harder to teach from the get-go. Whereas my 6-year-old is far more in line with his gifts. He's never actually come up to me and talked to me about it, but like he's very precog. He sees things right before they happen. He knows what people are going to say when they're about to say it. He's very linked in with people. Like he knows when I'm having a hard time, and he'll come seek me out quickly if he knows I'm having a hard time. And he does the same thing with everyone else. He is far more spiritually inclined, and he gets the message easier of, like, one of his best friends is like, well, pink's a girl color. And I was like, girls, that's not necessarily it. Girls, not every girl likes pink. And who decided that? And I've challenged this kid. He's 6, 7 years old, and I've comes and hangs out over my house. Again, he's put in my space, and his mom gave me free reign. And I said, colors aren't for boys or girls. They're just colors. They just are. And that shocked him almost as much as he was like, witches don't exist. And I was like, fuck you. Like, no. But there are certain things that, like, his grandfather teaches him all of these older things. And when my son was like, I don't want to use that because that's a girl color. And I was like, do you remember what we talked about with colors? And he was like, colors are just colors, right? And he's like, yeah, that's right. And now his favorite color is the rainbow. He's like, he's like, he likes red and the entire rainbow. Kid draws rainbows everywhere as he's smashing trucks, getting dirty with the dogs, and wants to cook and do simmer pots with me. He's far more level. But I did the same things with him as I did with his older brother. His older brother is just, it's harder for him to get the message.
It is. Is there a point in puberty where the magics get sideways? Like the connection just is so full of static with all of the things that they're going through and their hormones that they'll come out on the other end, but right now it's just white noise.
For me, and with my kiddos and my experience, I saw that more with the pruning stage than I saw that with puberty. The pruning stage being between like 13 and 15, where the brain is breaking down a ton of neural pathways that it's made that it no longer needs anymore. This is the same time when kids get really clumsy and aren't fully in their bodies. I saw more of a separation in that period than I saw in puberty where things were changing. I actually saw my kids ask more questions of spirit when they were going through puberty because they were like, what is this? And I saw that quite a bit. I was like, yeah, I can understand that. I get it completely. I'm cold. All right, like sidebar. I always know when I'm really listening to spirit and on that side when I get really cold. So we're turning the electric blanket, my grandma electric blanket, up to high.
I don't know about you, Charity, but that made my forehead sweat just thinking about it.
The pruning stage?
No, the electric blanket.
Oh.
Because it's 7,000
It
degrees.
is, but
in
my
Louisiana
spine
right
is
now.
really cold, so I have on a jacket and shorts. I get real. My spine
I was
gets cold.
questioning. I was
Yeah, it's
questioning
hot
if
outside.
Jenny was
Sorry,
just worried about getting electrocuted.
I was too. I
Oh,
was
no.
like, "What's with the
No, I promise.
electricity?"
No more electrocution.
I hadn't brought it up once. It's been all of y'all.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you started it though.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, no, fair point. Yeah, I take ownership of that one.
Yeah, you gotta watch the energy you let out, Jenny. Jesus.
Just sapping things left, right, and center.
Do you know how many people were like, I'm so excited for Jenny and her random facts?
They are fantastic.
Worms are invasive species. There you go.
Wait, what?
Apparently, worms are invasive species. I haven't had a chance to do research on that, but there you
All
go.
worms?
I don't know.
Disagree heavily with the scientific community on this one.
I mean, I love me. Never mind. I'm not finishing that sentence.
No, what were you saying?
No, that's for the after hours. Sharon will not like me.
She waggled her finger at. We love Sharon. How can you not love Sharon? So it was posed in the comments here, and I caught it from Monica about for most girls, their mother is actually their biggest bully.
Oh,
So how do we heal that mother wound?
because matricide is illegal? I don't know.
Oh my God. In all 50 states, it's frowned upon. It is.
Yeah, I mean, it'll earn you another incarnation, and I want off the roller coaster for a little bit.
Oh, ma'am, that's a valid point.
But I mean, it's fair, Colleen. Sorry, but it's fair point. Some of the biggest bullies I've ever encountered were adult women.
When I was, I think I was like 19, 18, 17. I was right there at the end of high school. I was 18. I worked at a garden center. And this old lady there just clung to me. She was always like, "Oh, you're just so great. You're such a beautiful young lady. If only you could lose the weight.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you could just lose 20 pounds."
Wow.
And I didn't think that there was anything wrong with my body at the time. And I didn't know how to address it. So I just kind of like ignored her because I was, headstrong enough to be stubborn. But that's how I grew up, is women coming around giving you a hug and then patting like your side roll or patting the top of your butt and being like, if you could just lose this, you'd be a model. I'm like, why would I aspire to be a model? Of all things for me to be, why would that be what I'm aspiring to? So how do we now, especially as spiritually inclined beings, how do we address this?
Really firm boundaries.
Better
Mhm.
examples. Better examples than that of how to like do that kind of stuff, because I don't know why people do that, but I grew up with people doing that. Like, if you could just lose this, if you could just get rid of that, if you could just dress more like a girl, if you could just this. I'm like, could you just leave me alone and let me be? Right?
And
Yeah.
imagine the shadow work
Yeah.
later on in life. It's like you just added
Yeah.
hours to my fucking shadow work. Thank you so
And
much for this, Gladys. I
yeah.
appreciate it so
Yeah.
freaking much, Pearl.
Exactly. But it's like, teach something different, because I read, and I use this a lot of times, as an example, is we as a society have made that image something for young females to seek after. So I compare it to a time in history when today's sought after female is the total opposite of what was sought after then. It was not a tan, it's not go out and do all this stuff like tanning and all that. And it's not like the super thin or anything like that. And like, we talk about it in history and how that it's just a huge contrast. And I get the kids to look at it and see, like, we've made this okay. It wasn't before.
Mhm.
So make it not okay and stop. Like, I really try to tell them, it's up to you. I'm telling you, this is my part to say this is not okay. Now you guys have got to say it's not okay. And then when people say that kind of stuff to you, well, you would be better if you did this. Well, leave me alone. I'm fine. Right? For kids, like, leave them
And
alone.
define better.
Sorry. What?
No, no, no. I don't know why you apologize. I interrupted you. I'm sorry. I was saying
Right.
define better because they said the same things
Yeah.
to me. Be better. What is better? And then where does it stop? And it goes
Yeah.
around and around in circles. And Sharon put in the chat, males are just as subject to the judgment of their
Yeah.
mothers.
Yeah. Yeah. Big time.
Does
Yeah.
in those spaces when poor Gladys comes up to you with her infinite wisdom, is that moment of blasting your light, is it an opportunity for it in that moment? I mean, will that hell, it can't hurt, right?
Personally, for me, my new words are, my body's not up for discussion. I really don't want to talk about this with you. This is
Yeah.
not something I'm open to talking about. It's just not something I want to talk about.
It's firm boundaries is what we keep on saying, and just learning what those firm boundaries are. I saw this thing, and I don't remember it all the way, but it said, like, they're an adult. They can handle rejection. Like, they are able to handle rejection. It is their job to do that. And like, if you don't have those boundaries, you're going to take all those things personal, and those are going to end up in shadow work down the line, right? But if we can teach girls and kids and just everyone coming up those firm boundaries right now, of saying, hey, this is not what we're doing right now, and we're not going to do it again, and you choose. You get to choose if you're in my life or not, because I'm not coming to meet you. You're coming up to meet me. And like, knowing your worth is a big part of it, but it's the boundaries.
I love that line. I'm not coming up to meet you. You're coming
That was
up to
good,
meet me.
Spencer.
Oof.
That was really good.
That was good. Oh,
Somebody
I gotta
needs
write that
to write that
down.
down, Spencer.
That's gonna go on the Instagram. We're gonna make a Canva on that one, and we're gonna tag your name in it and everything, because we are adding more of everyone who's involved with Sweet Release Healing onto the Instagram and and Facebook.
Ooh, that
Well,
gave me goosebumps everywhere.
and I think we all know it. Like you guys on one of your TikToks the other day, you had a list of like what you need in a man, right? And like those are boundaries. Like getting that skill, and it is a skill because we have taught kids like, oh, you just say sorry and then it's okay. And I like as a teacher, I'm like, no, like you need to learn that that student keeps on hurting you. Is that the type of student you want to be friends with? Like learn that boundary of like, hey, I'm done with you. And if enough students had that skill, that student could learn from each other. And we're a community. Like that's how we have to teach kids, but we're not. Like at a very young age, even as a kids, they're like playing and someone takes your toy and you're like, "Oh, just let them play with it." No. Like that kid cannot take that toy away from you unless you give it to him or her. Like ah, this is kind of a passion topic and I get very passionate about it. Ugh.
That's a fantastic point because I don't know about y'all. My mom, if I'm playing with something and my cousin came up and she wanted it, and would throw a fit, and I would have to stop what I was doing and give her whatever to play with, right? Because that's just how it worked, except it was never reciprocated. And I think I was probably 13 years old when I went, it can either be this way at our houses, but it can't be your way at both places. Like it's either tit for tat or it's not at all. And that was the first time, and I was so worried I was going to get in trouble from everybody around me for standing up for myself. And it's taken a really long time to reprogram that to say no. And that no is a complete sentence. And saying no doesn't always equal danger.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah, that is a
that's a
one.
big one. Do you know how long it took me to learn that? Oof, too long. Way too long.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I remember being at a family member's house, and she was older, and she was someone who was like a matriarch of the family. And one of the things she was famous for is working you because you were younger. So you can go up and down the stairs and you could carry all the heavy shit and you could do all this. And I never really minded until I started to notice the pattern of the second you sat down to sit comfortably was when their own shadows came up of must be productive all the time, must be doing this, you're younger, I'm going to treat you that way. Those old belief systems and patterns that don't work anymore. And there came a time, and I think I was in my late teens because I was driving, and I said, no. They were like, I sat down and they said, go get me a Diet Coke from the fridge. And I said, no, I just sat down. I've been working for you for hours. I next time I get up, I'll be happy to go get you one, but I'm not getting up right now. And I remember one of my aunts at the time looking over at me like, oh, she's fucking dead. She is dead meat. Like, this is dead girl walking. And I held my boundaries, but I felt like I was going to throw up. I thought I was going to have like the nervous poops and the pukes at the same time. Like my stomach was gurgling. I thought I was going to lose it. And when I got up, I said, "Do you want that now?" No. No, thank you. As if she was rejecting me and then refused to be like, "I love you," as I left. And I was like, "Okay, well, I love you, so I'll see you another time." But since that day, and that, like I said, that took me a very long time to get to that point, that shit is scary. And it definitely exists in my shadow work today of people pleasing, of being safe in my boundaries, and knowing that I'm okay to do these things. That I may end up losing people, and am I going to be okay with that? What's more important to me? Losing myself or losing that person? But I think, like we're talking about, the setting of the boundaries in the first place is a really good start to healing this mother wound so that we can move on to the father wound and then heal ourselves, heal humanity. I mean,
Yeah.
sky's the limit
Mhm.
after that shit, right?
Yeah. Because biologically speaking, we are the product of our grandmothers, right? So if I understand the biology correctly, I am carrying the seeds of my grandchildren.
Mm.
And so it's not just one generation, it's two. And that is a lot of work to break for one, and I'm going to say this in hyperbole, for one tiny little soul, especially when we are breaking so many other boundaries and so many other glass ceilings and aspects. Sometimes it's heavier because it's so personal. And especially if that's your support system, how do you tell a borderline personality disorder mother absolutely not, when as toxic as her as toxic as her femininity is, there's still an aspect that you need in order to function, in order not only to not to thrive, but just to survive. It's really difficult and nuanced, and there are ways to do it, but like you said, it's scary as all get out, and sometimes you just have to.
I love what you said about, am I really going to do this for the sake of one soul? When healing this part of me means that I project that out to how many, and the trickle down of that, of being a healthy human being who is okay to say no and hear no, who is emotionally intelligent. Because if we think about it, the older generations are super shut down to spirit because their ego voice is so loud. How can they even hear it? How can they even get it through? They're old as fuck. Yes, sure, the hearing aid might have an issue with it too. Um, as you get on in age, sometimes you need it. Um, an aid
Spiritual hearing aids for everybody.
for real. We're gonna say noise canceling for the ego.
Yours for $9.99.
A month.
Sorry.
Correct.
In this economy,
um, I think it is just as important though that like those boundaries are held for that older generation as much as the younger generations. We
Yeah.
teach the younger generation that they have these boundaries. It's okay to have them, and it's needed for you to be a healthy, active adult. And we tell the older generation, hey, it is not okay for you to do this to me, and like help them understand why it is. And I think that is a really big political thing right now, is like we have such a political uproar on so many different topics, and it really seems like the younger generation's leaning one way and the older generation's leaning one way of like, hey, we've always done it this right, but we need to meet in the middle and say this is why we don't do it. Like
mhm.
this, and like at that point, that's when things like real change is going to happen. But how are we going to actually make that happen? I don't know, because politics are dumb and
But
really hard.
also, like, how do we get to that point? It's through active communication with each other.
Yes.
And like being able to recognize that dull roar of the ego voice and saying, hold on a second. Do I really have anything to be afraid of, doubt, judge, condemn, compare to? Because I find like the further away you get from the middle of understanding when it comes to different sides of things, the further away you get to that, the higher that ego voice is and the more it rules. Do you know how like I notice this a lot with like my older clients, and I love when my older clients come in because they start out with, I'm so old, I don't care anymore. I am learning this. And I'm like, go you, breaking some generational trauma on you that like spirit is weird and you should shut it down. And they share their stories with me about how often they've been told that this isn't even real, to ignore it, that we don't talk about that. Actually, a dear friend is in her 60s and she was told that all the time by her grandmother and her mother. We don't talk about it. Like they acknowledged it and they knew it was a thing and they knew it was there, but they just straight up didn't talk about it. And now I'm seeing an uptick in older clients who are really interested in utilizing their gifts properly and doing so in a way to break their own generational traumas. They're like, I'm not just putting this down to my grandkids, I'm doing this too. And it's such a beautiful thing to see. And it's so enlightening, but look where it started. It started with people just like us, everyday people saying, no, that's what Spirit said. That's the feeling I get, and not hiding it anymore. Providing that platform for a middle ground. Ooh, I like that. They literally just showed me a platform and they were like, for the middle ground. I'm like, oh, I love that. I love random visuals. Yay! How are we feeling? It was a big topic.
This was a big topic.
Yeah, it was.
I didn't expect us to go on this long about it.
We could probably talk about this for hours or
Yeah,
days or
yeah.
months. There's so many different aspects, and it goes back so far and so deep that, it's grandmothers, grandmothers, grandmothers. It's so ingrained in our genetic makeup.
Mm-hmm.
And not to mention, like, we could go on different cultures and how how it's affected in those different cultures and how they grew up and like what kind of progress have they made in their culture. And historically we could look back and be like, well, this was a big part in their history for them to be able to move on from that. And I don't know, it's a huge topic.
I also feel like we miss the right, because we don't have rites of passage anymore. We don't have a separation between responsibilities for both men and women, that there isn't a definitive point in time where you walk into the woods as a child and you walk out of the woods as an adult. I think that plays a big part in some of it as well, because we are perpetually our parents' children. There is never, in the community that I'm in, the experience that I have, there is never a point in which we become our parents' equals. We are forever our parents'
Yeah.
children.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah. Forever. Yeah.
I'm gonna go kick my kids out and put them through the woods now. Fuck this.
Yeah. And so the toxic mother, which is if we've got toxic masculine, we also have toxic feminine. So the toxic feminine breeds the toxic masculine. She is the source of it all. Because they didn't learn it from nothing. Someone taught them this was acceptable behavior. Someone taught them that it was okay to treat women like this by example, by words, by it. It was learned somewhere.
Oof.
Yeah, that one hit hard, Jenny. Thanks.
I'm gonna have more fucking
That,
sugar.
you're right. Right.
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. Thanks a
Yeah,
lot,
you're right.
Jenny.
You're absolutely right.
God,
man.
I need to write a message.
Yeah.
That's actually really interesting because like a big complaint among like parenting and like the parenting books and whatever right now are all just like millennials these days are making their kids their friends instead of parenting them, right? So instead of like what you just said where we will always be their kids, meaning below, parents these days are now making a more equal being more of friends. And now they're blaming that as why kids' behaviors are so rough. And is there a platform to meet in the middle on this one? Because
Maybe like Jenny was saying, that age of puberty where they were traditionally given a task and given that life passage. That's the point. Like prior to that point, when they're growing up and they're children and their bodies are children. And then right where that point where starts to sway over to adulthood, where we hit those mid-teens, maybe that is the point where we need to start stepping back. Because I'm not Mother of the Year or anything. Lord knows I'm not. Just look at my actions from today. Like, you want McDonald's and Dino Nuggies? Fuck yeah. That means I don't have to cook? Hell yeah. Yep.
But On the other hand, that's also self-care, because sure, you could go be that patriarchal Betty Crocker version of some mother and do all the— Tate rolled her
Because
eyes
it
so far
doesn't
out of her head she's
exist.
going to have to go get them.
I mean, you don't
You know,
vacuum
you
in
could do that,
heels.
or you could go, I need my life to be easy. Here.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Terry. I'm sorry.
You just caught me with that with Jenny. I'm like, my God, you don't vacuum in pearls and heels. It's ridiculous. But you're right. It goes back to that.
I also don't have cocaine in my Dr. Pepper, in my Coke, in order to
This
do
is
all
true.
of the things and be a size 0.
Yeah, they
It's
took
like
drugs away from us. It's bullshit.
with the
Just
uppers
getting
to
rid
get
of
it all
drugs.
done and the downers to go to sleep. Like, yeah, yeah.
Sure did. They did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I forgot about that. How many drugs they put into like
No,
cough
they sold it.
medicine, into
Yeah,
your
they sold it over the
soda.
counter back then because it was okay.
Yeah, didn't they used to have to be like
Yeah.
like pep me up
Mm-hmm.
pills or
Yeah.
something is what they
Yeah.
called
Yeah.
them, or like a pep?
No.
You're right.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. That was like back in the 30s. It wasn't even that long ago.
Yeah, and you were
Mhm.
expected to do all the things, but you also couldn't own
No.
land or have a bank account without your husband's permission.
Yeah,
Kiss
you
my
couldn't
ass.
own anything. Mm-mm. Couldn't have
Nope.
anything.
And so we were thinking that rite of passage. So when you think about even Victorian Europe, from my understanding, you think about Narnia and Peter Pan and the different which is Narnia is not Victorian England, but you think about the difference between— I don't want somebody coming at me because I got my dates wrong. But you think about the difference between young boys going from short pants to long pants. You think about staying in the nursery with your brothers and sisters and moving out into your own room. So while it wasn't a literal out into the forest and back, there were, up until 100 years or so ago, there were demarcations in time which split a before and an after.
I love that we're having this conversation because part of the mother wound is that I hear this a lot too. Hey, that's your mother. Or I'm your mother. I can do whatever I want. I'm your mother, but I'm the mom. And I hear that a lot. I get it from my clients. I hear it from outside. Even to women who are in their 40s and 50s, they're still being told by their mother, hey, I'm still your mom though.
No.
So at what point are you able to grow up and develop your emotional intelligence and develop your individuality and feel comfortable sewing those wounds and healing them and not being a people pleaser anymore and setting your boundaries? These things are all important. And for me, I can see the difference in, oh, that's an ego voice. Like, oh, that is up high and that is not good. And then I see like the ego on the other side where this one's in more control and this one's just in more misery. I know that we said earlier that it really comes down to setting your boundaries. But once your boundaries are set, how do you deal with all of the emotional fallout, the nuclear fucking winter that exists inside, and the emotions that follow afterwards?
Therapy.
Salt baths.
I would say community. Community where those walls, what's the word left me? Those are the same standards for them as well. And I think that is why we push finding a community that accepts you, and that is why we have Pride Month. We have a community for the people who are part of the Pride community, and that's how they got past through a lot of the things. Like, that is how we move on, and you have to find those people. And I think it's like that whole quote that's like, blood is stronger than the womb of the water, but it's like that quote has actually got chopped up a lot.
Yeah.
And it's like saying how like the people who you find your family now. And I think we have to get past that whole like, I'm your mother, I'm your dad. Like, so what?
Mm-hmm.
So what? Like, these are my people now. This is my new family. and being okay with it. And I think that's the hardest part, is the being okay with it. I feel like for a really long time, like media and movies and stuff like that pushed family, and like, oh, family's all you got and whatever. But like if you watch the new shows and stuff, it's not that anymore. It's finding who accepts you for who you are and being okay with that. It's Encanto, is that the new one?
Mhm.
Like, that was a really strong one of like, hey, you're that may be the grandma, but like you have to stand up to that, right? But
Because if you think about it, that TGIF ABC Friday night, it was, you had 30 minutes to resolve the issues and everybody hugged and loved each other at the end of it. In reality, the real world does not operate like that.
Mhm.
And you compare it to Encanto, which I have not seen yet because don't have the emotional
Oh, I
fortitude.
would love that.
Yeah, well, after I got through picking myself up off the floor, there is a stark difference between the message being presented.
mhm.
And it goes back, you said it, it's the community that you pick, because we can pick a community that commiserates and that wallows and that, is self-loathing and poor pitiful me and it's everybody's fault and take no responsibility. Or you can find a community that will help hold the mirror, and someone holds the mirror while the other person stands beside you so you can face it.
Yeah.
I love the chat on TikTok is saying we don't talk about Bruno from Encanto.
Yeah.
And I love, I gotta say,
Mhm.
I loved that song. I really do love that movie. I'm not really like a Disney movie person, but I really loved that one in particular. Yeah, there he is. Spencer, he was Jesus last time. Now he's
I'm
Bruno. Fantastic. He's, but I mean, think about how that goes. We don't talk about it. Nobody talks about these things. And when they do, it's usually just in a way to complain instead of actually trying to solve the problem. Look at us solving the world's problems one
That's
podcast
right.
at a time.
Love it.
So we've said shadow work, boundaries, salt baths,
Mhm.
therapy, and community. We got a multi-dimensional and multifaceted solution to a multifaceted and multi-generational problem. Look at us. Also, that's the end of our hour.
God, that was fast.
I know. It goes by super fast. So I want to thank you guys all for coming. Thank you so much, Spencer, Jenny, Charity, the Morgan, and the Sharon for being part of the Sweet Release Healing Round Table discussion. For those of you who want to, stick around and find us next on the After Dark, After Hours conversation where we can lose some filters. Have a great week. Mwah.